So this video is about the spacers and dividers we're using on our paper. We always have a line here between the columns. So we're currently using 0.25 inches for the gutter. So the gutter is the spacer between columns. And we're using one line, and the weight of the line is half a point, 0.5 pt. And we're spacing that exactly in the middle of these two columns, columns in this gutter. One way to get it positioned really nicely is to create a frame tool and drag out a frame, press shift so it makes it a perfect square. And then you can check to see if your frame, if you positioned it right in the center, and that lines up really nicely. Some of the other lines we have are a broken line between the subheader and where the article starts. So this one here has a weight of 1 point, and for type, it is the dotted line. Most of the spacers are 1/4 inch, 0.25 inches. So we're using 1/4 inch here and here, and these are all 1/4 inches. And sometimes we'll use half that, half 1/4 inches, 0.125 inches. The simple thing to do is just open up the last issue and just drag and drop the spacers from parts to parts. Just reuse the same spacers. These spacers are handy. They're just basic frames, but they don't print. They're invisible. But when you press W on the keyboard, you can hide them or show them. So a couple other thoughts on spacing. One thing that's really nice to do is to make sure all the columns line up. So if you pull down the guideline, this one actually doesn't line up very nicely. So to fix this one, what we need to do is drag a guideline down and simply just move the column down. So this one is our baseline. So this one would have to move up a little bit just to fix it. So those line up now. That's nice. And this should line up as well. So let's pull that up. Now that lines up much more nicely. And then we'll just check up here on this column. Nope, this one's off as well. And then the bottom of this line should end up on the baseline of this text here. So it's a matter of just adjusting it so it's the right height. And then when you're on an inside page, we really want the baseline of the columns to end up on the pink line at the bottom, so that we're going all the way down and using up all the space. The space is less important, is the space between the top story and the bottom story. We'll have multiple stories on a page, usually 2, sometimes 3. But as long as the baseline at the bottom lines up on the bottom, that's good. On the pink line. And then as long as the top of the story lines up at the top, that's what we're looking for. And the space between articles is less important. And just thinking about line thickness, currently we're using a 2-point stroke for the line between articles.